Well, hello there. Welcome once more to Quenchway's Kitchen. And if this is your first time stopping by, I'd like to say a very warm welcome to you. Yeah, I know you can tell what we are making already. Yes. We'll be making this very simple corned beef stew today. You don't have a blender? Well, yeah, I got you. This is a simple recipe. You don't need a blender to make this. So for you students out there and for you who have just moved out of home or your blender is simply not working, this is a go-to recipe that I know you are going to love. And this rice, most of you have asked me so many questions about this, so I am sharing the recipe with you today, and I really hope you enjoy making this combination. I know you will love it though. Alright, so let's start cooking. So to start, I am going to cut up some garlic. You know I love garlic, and it is optional if you don't like it, but I think it's always nice to use garlic in my stews. And so I'm cutting up 4 large cloves of garlic, and after that I'm going to cut up my onions as well. So right now I have set my pan on fire. I'm going to be making my stew in this, and I'm adding in some avocado oil, about a third cup of oil. And now that the oil is hot, I have added in my garlic and half of my onion, like about a half, I should say maybe 3/4 of my onion. And I'm gonna save the rest for when the stew is cooked, because I like to have those crunchy bites of onion in my stew when I eat it. So I'm gonna cook this onion until it is soft and sweaty. I'm not really going to caramelize this one in this stew. I just want it to be cooked and fragrant, and then I'll go ahead and add my other ingredients to this. And like I said, this recipe, you don't need a blender. This is a quick recipe with very simple ingredients, very simple on the flavors and aromas, but the taste is just beyond amazing. So here I have added about a teaspoon of curry powder to my onions, and you saw the onions didn't caramelize, they just got a little soft, sweaty. And then I added the curry, and I'm just going to let this cook for about 1 full minute, frequently stirring just to make sure my curry is fried and very fragrant before we add any other ingredient to it. And I think it's a good time now. It is cooked enough. And so now I'm adding in some smoked paprika. Didn't I tell you? No blender. So just the smoked paprika. If you don't have smoked paprika, you have cayenne peppers, you have any powdered pepper, or even crushed peppers, like the chili flakes I normally use in my stir fries. You could use that as well. So this is also going to be according to your taste, but powdered peppers, because they are dry, they can be very spicy. I think I added about just a half a teaspoon, only because my kids will eat this too. So you don't want it to be too spicy. And when my stew is cooked, I'm just going to go ahead and throw some green chili peppers in here though. So that should work. And here now I've added about a tablespoon, just one heap tablespoon of tomato paste in here. You just want to make this stew very simple. You could even do without the tomato paste, just a little bit of tomato paste, because you want the stew to be, rich and beautiful in color when it's cooked. Just make sure you stir to make sure the whole paste is, well incorporated into the oil and your other ingredients. So it's almost like mixed up and not just one big glob of tomato paste sitting there. You want it to fry. So that is what I'm trying to do now, and I think I've been able to achieve that. It is well mixed up into everything else, and I'm just gonna let this cook for about 2 minutes whilst I keep stirring. So whilst my tomato paste cooked, I have washed up my cans of chopped tomatoes. These are diced tomatoes, which typically I would never have bought, but I tell you, I am loving cooking with this diced tomatoes. It's so simple. I always never really like, I like the freshest of ingredients, but this is quick. It tastes amazing. You don't really see the difference once you're done cooking. So maybe going on in the future, I'll be getting more of this. This I got, all because of the pandemic, the lockdown and everything. I went to Sam's Club one day and I shopped like crazy. It's like I broke the bank that day. And I'm loving this diced tomatoes anyway, and I think I'll be getting more of that in the future. So I started off with two because I don't know how these turned out. So I opened two cans and I mixed it up, and I think at this point I decided, oh, why not just add the third can. So I'm just going to go ahead and open my third one and add it in here. There's plenty of room. There's enough aroma and flavors in the stew that adding an extra can of tomatoes is not going to make it taste any less. It's still going to be just as delicious. So here it goes in here now, and I'm just going to go ahead and mix everything, and then we can let this bowl or pan of deliciousness keep cooking. This already smells so good, like something so simple. You'll be like really, this is just tomato stew, but it's simple on even the taste, but it's going to be just amazing. So I've added two bay leaves that I've washed in here. You could use fresh bay leaves if you have that. That will be a plus. And I'm just gonna go ahead and let this simmer on low heat until our stew is cooked, and then I can also focus on making that delicious rice, that spag rice that you've been asking me about. Yeah. So I have my saucepan already on fire. I have turned it up because it's that cast iron I'm going to be using today. I just want it to heat up, so when I start cooking everything, it's going to be just a breeze. And so I have here about, maybe I should say, like what, one sixth, or yeah, a fifth of the contents of my packet of spaghetti, and I am just cutting or breaking them into three pieces. Each bunch that I put in my hand, I'm just breaking into three. And whilst done with that, I have here some coconut oil that I am melting. So this is about 2 tablespoons of virgin coconut oil in here. I'm just gonna let it melt all the way, and then I'll proceed to making this delicious spaghetti braised rice. I know you really want to try this rice. This is the same rice I cooked when I had my collaboration video with Nanaba. Have you watched that video? I'm going to link it up here. Yes. So a lot of you asked me about it. We were running through, talking and all, and my son had been disturbing me that day, so I really didn't focus on making a complete video for you. So if you couldn't pick up how I made it, this is it. And I'm going through every step with you now. So our coconut oil is melted. I have added in my spaghetti. And at this point, I also typically like to put some garlic and onion in my rice. So I'm just going to go ahead and stir this, make sure that it is mixed up in the oil. This is the hardest part of making this right, because the spaghetti is so dry and brittle. It keeps jumping out sometimes, especially if you are using a saucepan that is as shallow as this one. And if you don't stir it constantly, it's going to start, of course, cooking from the bottom. So the spag that is hitting the bottom of the pan is right straight up the back going to start burning. And then you would have to just add water or something, because you can't have that burning and still want to make your spaghetti brown, because stirring that in with everything else is going to be a disaster. So what I advise is you keep stirring. As soon as you have that spaghetti in the hot oil, and of course a hot cooking pan, Please try as much as possible to be focused on that. Keep stirring so you have this golden brown, uniformly brown spaghetti and nothing else. So I'm adding in here today, I'm just going to add in some onions. If you paid attention to the video that I watched with I made with Onyawa on Another's Kitchen, you know, I added some garlic. Like, that is cooking. I always say in cooking you can switch it up as often as you want. So here is only onions. I love garlic, so typically I'll put garlic in. I forgot to save some garlic, or peel some garlic for this purpose. And like I just told you, if I leave this to focus on anything else, I'm just gonna burn my spaghetti, and we don't want that. So there's enough garlic in the stew, and that should work. But if you prepared, pre-arranged, and you like garlic in your rice, please save some garlic for the rice. It just makes it even better, trust me. So I've managed to cook my spaghetti until it's golden, it's beautifully browned, no part of it is burnt, and I have washed my rice. So I'm adding it in here now, and I'm just going to cook this rice to toast just a little bit. So this is rice that I washed, drained, so you try to get as much of the moisture out because you'll be toasting it. And so I'm just going to go ahead and stir this together, mix it up with the spaghetti, onions, and oil, and try to get it to toast up a little bit before we add any water to this. So this spoon is definitely not the one to use. It is too light, and that toasted rice is just too heavy for me to turn. So I'm using this wooden spoon, which is all the better. It's heavier enough and helping me do the work just right. And I'm gonna be stirring, you're toasting the rice, so you're not just gonna let it sit and not turn it. You're gonna be turning it so every part of it gets a chance to toast. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and add some salt. And guess what? Some coconut milk. Yes, this I saved in the freezer. This was saved from when I made the rice and peas, the Jamaican rice and peas. So it was just frozen. I put it in a plastic bowl and froze it. And so that is what I just brought out. Added it in here and some water, and I'm just going to cook my rice in that. So coconut oil, milk. So this rice is like what, double coconut spaghetti braised rice. Yes, with that green chili pepper there, habanero. Oh my god, this is like the bomb.com. Flavors pa, flavors. Jeanette, tell you kind of ni hyum, ni hyum. Ni hyum means the fragrance. How fragrant this rice tends to be. I cannot even tell you. You only have to try it to know. Like, really, this is just beyond amazing. Simple, delicious. Anybody that you serve this to will know that this person really knows how to layer their flavors. Simple but so delicious. So anyway, I have covered my rice, and now I'm going to focus a little bit more on my tomato stew, which has cooked beautifully. Since I just turned down the heat, it's cooking gorgeously. The diced tomatoes has fallen or disintegrated a little bit more. Yes. I chose to put chunks in because I like my tomatoes chunks. If I even used fresh tomatoes for this kind of stew, typically I would have cut them into dice anyway. So feel free if you want to blend it, but like I said, this is a blenderless recipe that I just wanted to make. It's one less step, and I like to bite into my vegetables, so this is perfect, like a perfect recipe for me. Anyway, our stew has cooked now at this point for about, let's say, 20 minutes on that low heat, and as you see, it has reduced. It is fragrant, and I think it's a good time for me to add in here my corned beef, or what do you say, corned beef. And look at me, I decided to show you from beginning to end how I open my corned beef. Since I was a little girl, I have almost never been able to open a whole can of corned beef without making a mess, that I have to go, retract my step, coil it back, and try to go back to make sure I open it evenly. Sometimes I end up breaking that key or whatever, the strip that comes with the key, the line you have to follow. I break it, and then it's a total mess. I have to use a knife or something to complete this process. But hey, today I was able to do it. Not smoothly, but I did it. Comment down below if you're like me, if you're a real control. You just like me when you open your can of corner beef. Let me know so I know I'm not the only strange one here. So anyway, I have opened my corned beef. I have just taken it out in lumps, into my stew, because you don't want it to be smooth. You don't want it to be fine. You can't say corner beef stew. You can't say corned beef stew. This is what we mean. You want to be able to know what is in that stew. You don't want it to be so mixed up in there that nobody knows what meat is in there. Some of us, meatless is sometimes very hard for us to imagine or conceptualize. We just want to have a little bit of something in there. So if it's corned beef, hey, let me see some corned beef. So it's in big chunks, just so that no matter how cooked, because the corned beef of today, it's not the same as the corned beef that we used to have when we were growing up. Those times you could cook, well, this is not Exeter, so yes, but even if I had Exeter corned beef, sometimes you cook it, most of the time these days anyway, and it just falls apart. I remember when I was growing up, when my mom used to make corned beef stew, it held its form. But you just don't know what they're doing these days, like seriously. And I know a lot of you have realized that. Well, anyway, I have added in here some paposhito, that is like some peppers we call petit bell chilies in Ghana, and they are just amazing. They're fragrant. I typically prefer the other one that I used to make the rice, but that is very spicy, and I can't be throwing that in here like that. So this works. It's fragrant, not as fragrant as my green pepper in the stew, in the rice, but it works. This I can bite into it without burning my face and so, or my mouth. So this works. And at this point, our stew is almost done. Our rice is almost done as well. It's doing fine. So this is about 15 minutes into the cooking time. I check on it because remember, you have all that spaghetti in there, so you would want to mix it, because sometimes when you mix bag rice, the spaghetti normally settles on it, like in the layer somewhere, not like on one side, but it's not evenly mixed up in your rice, and you want to give it a good stir so that you have the spaghetti well incorporated in your rice. So when it's done and you're serving it, every scoop has enough, a perfect balance of spaghetti and rice, and that is what you want to achieve. So at this point, you would cover with parchment paper if you think your rice wasn't cooking quick enough. But if you know by now, when I use this pot, I don't have to go through that ordeal because it cooks so evenly. And so I love using this cast iron pot to cook rice, especially if I'm not cooking too much like today. So anyway, we're almost done. And at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and add in my sliced onions to my tomato stew. And this, of course, is just to give me extra texture. You don't have to do this if you are not so, you don't like your textures, but I do. So this works perfect, just perfect for me. So this stew, as simple as it is done. It took no time. No time. This is something, especially if you are using that canned diced tomatoes, you should be done pretty much between 30 and 45 minutes making this stew and your rice. This is one quick meal that you're going to just simply love. Just look at this. Just look at that. Yeah, And like I said, we didn't, smashed up all that corned beef. We still have some few chunks in here, and that is what you want to achieve. It smells amazing. The taste is on point. Very simple, and it's gonna pair so well with the rice. But of course, if you cooked up some yams, this is just gonna be just as delicious with it. This goes well, so well with boiled yams, but just as well with rice. It's just as delicious. And look at this rice. Can you see that? It is cooked to perfection. It just has a little bit of more of raw parts in there, so I think I'm just going to give it about an extra 5 minutes, on the lowest setting, and it's going to be cooked. But just look at this. Just look at that. Oh, the taste. Oh, this is just beyond amazing. when you can smell it and you can also taste all that delicious fragrances and aromas, the flavors in here is just beyond amazing. Everything in here just comes together to give that rice the most amazing flavors that you can ever imagine. So anyway, I covered it to cook. I put my eggs on fire to make some hard-boiled eggs, and this has been 5 minutes. Our rice is now cooked to perfection. Just come closer and take a look. It is fluffy. It is just beautiful, just perfect at this point. So look at that, just look. And so our stew is done, our eggs are boiled. I'm just going to quickly throw some vegetables. I'm just going to make some garden peas in the microwave according to manufacturer's instructions, so we can have a side of veggies, and our lunch is ready. So simple. I hope you enjoyed doing this with me. I really enjoyed having you on board. It is always a joy to do stuff with you, and I hope you are able to try this at home. This is a classic meal, very simple, made to perfection, and everybody you serve this to will love it. Thanks for watching, and if you are new here, this is Quanchua's Kitchen, where making simple, replicable meals is a joy. And until I come your way next time with something delicious, be loving, be kind, be happy.